Hello and welcome. In this video, I will be sharing with you my recap of my no spend January. I'll be telling you what I learned, what worked, and at the end of this video, I will be sharing with you how much money I was able to save. Welcome. If you are new here, my name is Rebecca, and on this channel, I'm sharing my journey with you. So that's everything from gardening to organizing, learning how to become more self-sufficient, and making the switch to more natural products, and so much more. So if that sounds like something that is of interest to you, please consider subscribing. No spend January is over, and it was a huge success for me. I had never participated in any sort of challenge like this before, and I set firm boundaries and I was able to stick to them. I took some advice from my last No Spend January video that I posted, and I went through my old bank statements. I chose to go through January of 2022 and take a look at my spending habits so I could see what my triggers were and where I could rein in my spending a little bit. January was a great month to do a no spend month because I had just got done spending a whole bunch of money for Christmas. So this was a nice reset to just stop the money bleeding and not spend any money. It was also great too because my kids had gotten a lot of gift cards for Christmas. So if they wanted something, they knew that they were going to have to spend their own money on it, and they knew I wasn't spending anything. So that was great too because they were able to go out and shop for things that they wanted, and I didn't have to spend any money on it. That being said, I did take my daughter shopping to Target, and she was a little bit short on her gift cards. It was $1.66. I covered it for her, and then she paid me back as soon as we got home. So I did spend money that I didn't plan on, but it was fine, not a big deal. She paid me right back, and it wasn't a problem. So I set firm boundaries at the beginning of this challenge. And one of the things I love about this challenge is that you can set the boundaries however you want them. You can make your own rules, and you can be as relaxed or as strict about this challenge as you want to. So I had set my rules in place of things that I wanted to make sure that I wasn't spending money on this month, and I was able to stick true to them. And one of the ways I did that is by staying away from my triggers. One of my biggest triggers is the thrift store. I've gone through a bunch of stuff and did a bunch of organizing this past month, and I had a bunch of donations. I actually didn't take them to the thrift store until yesterday, which was February 1st, because I didn't even want to have that idea that I would be anywhere near the thrift store and maybe I could just go in and take a look. I didn't want to trigger myself in that way, so I just didn't go. Another one of my triggers is spending money on Zulily. And pretty much anything that I get on Zulily that's not at the holidays, I don't need it. It's just stuff that I want. So I spent the entire month of January not going on that app at all. So that was one of the ways that I just steered clear of it, so I didn't have any temptation. Another temptation for me is the bookstore. And like I said, my kids had a bunch of gift cards, and my daughter wanted a book for to go with a series that she got for Christmas. So I took her to the bookstore, and I'm like, okay, I'm not looking. Luckily, she knew exactly what she wanted, and the book she wanted was right at the beginning of the store. So we were in and out in no time, and I was able to resist any and all temptation. I had mentioned in my list of rules that I was toying with the idea of giving myself a small budget, something like $30, for things that I needed to buy for videos that I was going to make. Even though I said that, that felt like cheating to me. So ultimately, I did not end up spending any money for videos. I was able to get through the entire month without buying anything, and things that I do need for videos, I just put in my cart and saved them for later. One of the things I learned from putting things in my cart and saving them for later is that I tend to make impulse buys, and by putting them in my cart and saving them till the end of the month, there were actually things that I ended up taking out of my cart that I decided I just don't need those. So if you are an impulse buyer, I would recommend putting things in your cart and waiting a day. See how you feel after 24 hours. Is that something that you really need, or do you really need the purchase and you're going to go ahead and make it? I think that is one great way to save money and stop your impulse buying. One of the ways that I was able to save so much money during No Spend January was by putting together a meal plan and sticking to it. So one of the rules I put in place for myself at the beginning of the month was that I didn't want to make any unnecessary or extra trips to the grocery store, because this is where I was spending a lot of extra money that I didn't necessarily need to spend. So I put together a meal plan for my family, and I ended up sticking to that. And I also said that I would only go to the grocery store every 2 weeks. So if there was something that I needed that I didn't have, it was too bad, I was going to have to find some other way, or just maybe not even make the meal I planned on, because I wasn't making any extra trips. I held true to that, and one of the things I hate doing as an adult is going to the grocery store. So the plan worked out perfectly for me. I saved a bunch of money, and I was able to meal plan, which is something that I've been wanting to do. So I will definitely be hanging on to that habit and doing that in the future as well. It was a really big eye-opener for me to take a look at my bank statement from the beginning of last year compared to where I am this year. And one of the things that was really surprising to me was that at the beginning of last year, I had about $5,000 more money in my savings account than I do now, which, yes, we just bought a house. We've been doing a lot of projects. A lot of money has gone towards that, but it was really eye-opening for me, someone who doesn't budget really at all, as opposed to my husband, who is very strict about his budgeting. We're total opposites in that way, but it works for us. But I could be working a lot better. But it was very eye-opening to take a look at where I was spending my money, how much money I had last year in my savings account to this year. And last year, in January, I ended up putting about $320 into my savings account. And when I started this challenge, I said it was great to have a goal of what you were going to do with the money. I personally did not have something in particular that I wanted to spend the money that I was saving on. I said, I'll just throw it in my savings account and we'll go from there. So what I was actually able to do during this no spend month was pay off my credit card, which it did not have a very big balance. It was just $250. It was the only credit card I have that did have a balance, but I was able to pay that off, and it feels really good to be going into this new year knowing that I don't have any credit card debt, especially since Christmas just ended, and I know that I'm not having to worry about paying any of that off. January was kind of a weird month because I had some money that somebody had owed to me, so they ended up paying that back to me in January, and that was a little bit over $300 that I typically wouldn't have had. And so since I typically wouldn't have had that money, I went ahead and put it right into my savings account, just pretended it didn't even exist. I wasn't even going to think about spending that money. So right off the bat, I've paid off a credit card and I put an extra $300 in my savings account. I got towards the end of the month and took a look at my finances and where I was. I saved a bunch of money on my meal plan, on not buying just miscellaneous things that I didn't necessarily need. There was no thrifting or anything like that. And I ended up being able to put an extra $500 into the bank. So all told, I put $250 towards my credit card and paid that off. And then I had an extra $800 that went into my savings account. And that feels so good. It feels like such a relief. It's very rewarding to come out of this challenge having actually have like a tangible savings that I can look at and say, hey, look at what I accomplished in the month of January by just reining in my spending. So this is definitely something that I'm going to continue to do in the future. Maybe not necessarily a no-spend month, depending upon what I have going on, birthdays, anniversaries, etc. I'll take a look at the calendar and see how that goes. But definitely no-spend weeks or a low-spend or low-spend week or month, because this has been really rewarding to actually see how much money I can actually get put back into my savings account, especially since it was so depressing to see how little I had in my savings account this year as compared to the beginning of last year. So I definitely learned a lot about my spending habits and how I really can go a month without spending money or going to the thrift store. However, I did go to the thrift store yesterday because it was the first day of February, so I was able to spend money. And I gotta tell you, I was so disappointed and I left empty-handed. I was so looking forward to thrifting and finding a nice little treasure, but the shelves were pretty empty. And it was very disappointing, especially since I'm on the side of TikTok where I'm watching TikTokers and all their thrifting finds. So it was really sad. And I ended up going to another thrift store that I had never been to before. And again, I walked away empty-handed. So all in all, it was really disappointing to have all this buildup of wanting to go thrifting and finding a great little treasure, but ultimately there was nothing that I couldn't live without. So I left empty-handed, but I did buy myself a new plant, so it wasn't a total loss. I really appreciate you hanging out with me and watching this video, and if you completed the challenge and have any tips for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Like I said, this is new to me. I've never done this before, so any tips are welcomed. If you found value in this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on my upcoming videos. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.